Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to submit a script through Slurm. So in this directory I have a script called testing.sh, and before I run it I'm going to open it up and explain it line by line to you. So let's get in it real quick. Alright, now there's two main sections to this. The first section is what you see in blue with the S batch in all caps. This is how we communicate with Slurm on how we want the job to be run. And in the second part, this is going to tell Slurm what to run. So in this first part, I'm just going to go line by line. First, we have partition equals batch. Now on our cluster, we have a couple of partitions, and it's based on what kind of job you want to run. So for example, let's say you want to run a job that requires a GPU. Well, we have a partition called GPU, and when you use that one, it will select a node that has a GPU to run the job on. In this case, I'm just going to use the standard partition called batch. Next, we have time. Now, I have it set to 30 seconds, and what this means is that this is the max allotted amount of time Slurm is going to run this job. And this is a very simple script, so it shouldn't take more than 30 seconds. If it does, Slurm will shut it down. Next we have nodes, and again this is a very simple script, so I only need one node. So I'm just going to do default of 1. And next we have n task per node, and this is more has to do with parallel computing. And in this case, again, simple node, I don't need to do any parallel computing with that, so I'm just going to take the default of 1. Next I'm going to have memory. And this is the amount of memory we want to allocate for the job. In this case, I'm doing 512 megabytes. Next, we have job name. Now, when Slurm submits her job, it's going to put it into a queue called SQ. Now, SQ is where we can see all of the currently running jobs. And we wanted to look up our job, we could look up the name of this, BGSC example. So this is a way to describe it. Next we have output and error. Now, when our job is done running and it ran successfully and it has any output, it will place that output in ssample.out. However, if there's an error with my script, it will instead put the error message in ssample.err. And these two files can be named whatever you want. So this will show you what I mean. The default is ssample.out and ssample.err. But I'll just put a 5 at the beginning of ssample5 and a 22. Next we have mail user and mail type. Now with mail type, that's specifying when we want Slurm to communicate with our email. So by putting the word N at the end of it, when our script is done running, Slurm will send us an email telling us that it is done. And what email that is? Well, that's based on whatever you place here. So I just use my student email in this case. Now, lastly, we have node list. And this is the list of nodes that are available to run on your job on. And again, in this case, I just need one node, so I just did compute 60. Now, that's the first section is done. Now, for our second section, we have what we want to actually run. And in this case, I just have a very simple print statement. If my job runs successfully, it would say hello from host name. And what that host name is, that would be compute 60. So if everything's all good, and I will get a file called ssample5.out. And in that, it will say hello from compute 60. However, if my job fails and there's a problem with it, I will get an error message in ssample22.err. So let's run this. So I just want to let you know, to show you it's an empty file. I only have the testing.sh. Because after I submit this job and it's done completing, I will get the two files I talked about before. So to run the job, I'm going to do sbatch testing.sh. And as you can see, it said submitted batch job 7210. Now I'm going to look at the queue that I talked about before that shows all the available jobs. So by doing that, I'll do SQ. And you see we have there's a lot of jobs running right now. And normally I would look up my job, and to find it, I would find my username, which would be shown here, the name of it, which was BGSC example, and also look for like the job ID as well. So I would look for a 7210. However, since the script I just ran was very simple, Slurm just executed it immediately. There's no wait time on it. You know, you compare it with these, for example. These are running much longer. So despite my job not being able to, I can't show you my job in action right now, I would like to describe everything that's happening here. So I'm just going to look at a random one, and right here. Let's take the first one. So in here we have the job ID, which what Slurm gives it. Next we have the partition, so that this user is running on the extended partition. Next he gave it the name B2, and the user is abbreviation of F King, and this is the state. And so the state is whether or not it's running or pending. So in this case it's an R, that means it's running. However, since it's a queue, sometimes when you submit a job, it's not going to run automatically. There's going to be a wait time. And if that's the case, it's going to be a P for pending. And it looks like we don't have any pending right now, which I'm fine with. That's great. And the time is how long it's been running. And then lastly, these are the amount of nodes I was using. So in most of these, actually all of them, they're only using one node. And the node list is whatever node they want to run on. So that's all the information that you'll find in the SQ. And now let's see we have the files. As you can see, we have an ssample22.er and an ssample5.out. Let's open up the ssample file first. As you can see, it's an empty file. That would suggest that we have not had any errors with it, which is fantastic. Now let's check the ssample.out file. And as you can see, we got a print statement of hello from compute60.bgsc.cluster. So this was just a very brief demonstration of running a very basic job on Slurm. And on all the jobs you're going to run, they're going to follow a similar format. In the first part, you communicate with Slurm on how you want to run it with the sbatch commands. Then after that, you put in the program or the code that you want to run. And then after that, you use the sbatch command to submit it as a job. And then when it's done, depending on what option you chose, you'll get your output back when it's done running. And this concludes this video. I will see you guys in the next one.